Getting close.
Michael, 2 hours of sleep. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Episode 199. Oh, sweet. Look, my emote is in the chat. That's great. Episode 199 starts recording in 3, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good evening, good day, good morning to you, and welcome to the Good, Bad, or Bullshit podcast. This is a show where we discuss random topics. We have an unrehearsed conversation about that topic, and then we provide a quality review on the topic. My name is Mike Hodgins. I'm one of your three hosts on this show, along with Mr. Bo Schwartz. Hello, Bo.
Hello, Michael. Hello, Good, Bad, or Bullshit listeners.
Yes, and Crofton Steers. Hello, Crofton.
Hey, Michael and Bo. How goes it, gentlemen?
Good, good. Hey, I have a sort of somewhat humorous story to tell. I don't know if it's actually humorous, but it's certainly awkward. So I've got the toddler, as you guys know, and
here we go again.
Everyone's like shuts off.
I just started listening to an old episode, and it actually starts with the Mike Hodgins toddler story. But go ahead.
Well, it has nothing to do with that much with the toddler. It's more me being an idiot, but also that I was unaware of what I was doing for so long. That's like pretext, I guess. So I was at this mall, and he's potty trained, so he has to go to the toilet a lot. So he was like, I have to go pee. So I was like, okay. So we go.
Hey,
incidentally,
the last toddler story also involves scatological sort of humor.
Are you going to interrupt every 5 minutes? I guess that. He's like, actually, the last
also
one, I interrupted you every 2 minutes. It took 20 minutes to get through the story. It's like,
all right, keep going.
So I go up, and then this is area. And I remember there's a sign that said like family restrooms, and then it just showed like a picture of like the icon for men's and women's bathroom, and they're kind of like look like they're on the same side. I was like, whatever. I'm like, oh, this is the men's. I'll go in the men's. So I go in there, and he uses the urinal, and then we leave and go back down some escalator, and he's like, Dad, I have to have a poo-poo. And then we go. I was like, all right, let's go back up. This often happens. So then we go back up the escalator. And then I say to myself as I go up, it says family restrooms, and this one sign has the two icons on it, and I was like, oh, I'll just go in the family one, is what I said. So I go in there, and I'm like, there's people in there, and I sort of like, I was like, oh, they don't have it. It seemed a bit bigger to me, and I was like, there's no urinals. I'm like, I guess that makes sense. It's all stalls. So I go in this stall. And there's like, there's other people in there, and there was like an older lady in the one next to me, and I was just like, and I remember thinking like, I guess lots of random people just use the family restroom. So I'm in there with him, talking to him, and he's like, because he talks a lot, so he's talking about having his poo-poo, and I'm talking to him like, okay, now we'll do this, and and there's people around, and it's like, and then they come out of the restroom, and then like some woman passes me by and goes in the other one, and then there's like a younger girl kind of putting lipstick on in front of the mirror. And then I'm like kind of washing her hands, and I remember thinking like it's kind of refreshing to be in this family restroom where no one really gives a shit. You realize the gender stuff is all
except your toddler.
Yeah, because I'm here. I'm like, there's women using the washrooms. Like, this is no big deal.
He's in the women's. That's
yes,
the
and then
line.
I'm like, I'm in the fucking women's washroom, and I did not realize it. And then we were starting to wash his hands, and I was like, and this girl was kind of looking at me, and the funniest part was that my hair is still kind of was long, and it was like down, and I'm sure that some woman was like, oh, look at that trans woman, she's really not doing a good job pulling it off, because like my hair was long, and I was just like nonchalant in there, and didn't look fussed or anything. And then he's washing his hands. I'm like, and then when I just bolted out the door, we went into the men's to finish washing his hands. I was like, it was like, there's probably all these women be like, what the hell is this guy doing in here? Like,
the best part is that Ivan is a little boy, because like maybe I could get away with that with my little girl. Be like, oh, I'm taking the girl to the girls' washroom or whatever. No, that's maybe big if, but you're doubling down. You're like, look, son, this is the only time you'll get to come in here.
And I certainly don't have a manly voice, but they women who were using the washroom were probably like, that sounds like a dude in that other stall. And I was unaware of it for like 5 solid minutes. And I'm talking the whole time because with the toddler, I'm talking. And I was like, I got in there. I was like, God damn it. My brain is like, something's on autopilot. I'm like, I can't believe it.
But didn't you say there was a urinal? There was the word
No, because I went into the men's first. And then he had to do two. So we went back into the bathroom. And for some reason, I thought
how
it was
did you manage to go to the wrong one, the one you just went into?
Because there was a sign that said family restrooms, and the thing is, if you go to like change rooms at community centers, there's often like a family one which is gender neutral, and it's usually kind of kid appropriate. So
Yeah.
that's what I thought it was, but it was just the women's, and this way the sign was, and I feel like an idiot. But the best part was I had this moment where I was really like, this is great. Like, no one cares. You know, anyone goes to the washroom. I'm like, it's really kind of refreshing to not have this gendered bullshit about bathrooms here. And then meanwhile, probably these women are like, I'm uncomfortable. I wish this dude would get the fuck out of here. And anyway, so no one was hurt. Nothing happened that was bad, but it was I certainly felt like a bit of a fool.
Yeah, no, that's
Hanging out in the women's bathroom. That's what I do, I guess, on my days off. Ugh.
You heard it here first.
If I ever become a politician, that soundbite right there will come back to bite me.
Yeah, well, there's probably about 18 other sound bites that would have screwed you up by now.
1,800, probably.
Potentially. That's one thing actually. I've always wanted to do sort of like maybe speaking to someone like Scott Johnson, who's a celebrity podcaster, about all the stuff they say, and how I think we talked on this show about how at any given point we're a hypocrite based on something we've said previously or whatever. And people are enjoying doing this to Donald Trump right now. Like pretty much everything that he does, there is a previous tweet, ready and willing to be like, right now he's going at it with North Korea, and potentially a lot of people are going to suffer the consequences. But people are unearthing this tweet that he had for Barack Obama, where it was just like, watch out, things are going bad for Obama. He's going to start picking a war with somebody or whatever. And it's like, it's Donald Trump. It's a Donald Trump tweet. And he has a tweet for all. So like, I just wonder if at a certain point when you're on the air long enough, and we're coming up on 200 episodes next show, if like it just becomes a point of like, you just look like an idiot. Like anybody who listens to you long enough is like, well, you said you've had your cake and eaten it too, like 8 different ways.
I mean, I think that there's some truth in that, but I think that so many things are so contextual. And I mean, we've even had a conversation. We talked about, depending on your mood, when you discuss an issue, you're going to come down one way or another. And I think that that's fair. Anyways. I'm sure we'll have a discussion about hypocrisy as a topic at some point, and we can get into that more then.
I think it's pretty funny that you had the moment where you thought you were okay.
In the bathroom,
you thought it was a gender-neutral bathroom. Like, I'm in a
modern
and
unisex I was really like this. I just was like, I remember feeling like this feels so progressive, and I was like, I really am not bothered. I'm like, I'm not trying to creep anyone out. Who cares? Everyone's doing their business. Why are bathrooms gendered anyways? That's what I thought. And then when I realized, I was like, I better get the hell out of here. And I came out the door.
Mall security or chasing it.
But it was just funny. This one woman who was probably like 27 or something, to put in the makeup, and she kind of looking at me a bit cockeyed, but like not really. And anyways, and also just because I was not fussed, I think that was half the issue. Like I wasn't like leering around.
Where was this?
I was just what?
Where was this? What kind of a bathroom was this?
It was in a mall.
Like so it's a mall bathroom. Okay, so malls are potentially, it's not like some classy restaurant where if something weird happens, you're kind of like, probably a mistake. There's really grody people in a mall, potentially. So
yeah, and I mean, it's like...
you have a little kid, so...
I think the main thing, because I was with a kid, it was probably disarming and also that I was not doing some creep thing. I was literally just like, hey, let's wash your hands, Ivan, get up here, get the soap. Just do that. Probably like, oh, this is kind of weird, but whatever. He doesn't care, so we're not gonna make a big deal out of this. It wasn't like I was like,
so the trick is to have a kid with you, is it?
No.
Can I rent out your kids? Is this a thing I can do? Hey, ladies, it's okay.
I have one follow-up question.
So first you have to abduct a child in order to get into the... We should get to a random topic.
I just wanted to know, I have a question that's important, unlike Crofton's statements.
Yeah.
Did I even notice? Was there any...
No.
No, you just no clue.
He's 3. He does not notice. He does not... And that's what you realize so much of the people often like to say that this gendered stuff.
Daddy, are you a mommy now because we're in the mommy's washroom?
No, kids do not care about that stuff. They're like, okay, he didn't care.
I'm ready to get to a random topic then. That's my curiosity.
Yeah, we learn that stuff. We learn to care and be like, oh.
For Mike, you don't learn that stuff. gender neutral. So progressive.
Oh, should have said, you know what was gender neutral and progressive? Is the random topic generator. Shit.
This is one of these. Okay, the topic is vaccines.
Oh.
And this is one of these ones that has this public, like, you know, I think I know where Crofton stands in this. I think I know Bo probably has no opinion on this. But there are people who are, like, I don't want to give away where I stand on this issue. Let's just say I am pro-vaccine. I'll just say that right now, because I am.
Did you just say that I don't want to give away where I stand on this
well,
issue?
yeah, but I will.
But I'm pro-vaccine.
This is how we ended up in the woman's washroom. I think we're getting to the bottom of how this.
Well, no, but I mean, have you guys followed the public sort of I know Crofton's going to be vaguely aware of it. It might not come into gaming circles, so Bo might not have heard of it. But the vaccine debate is like huge in our society right now, and it's like it's really visceral. Like people get really angry about it on both sides, and I'm on the like, you should vaccinate your fucking kids, and I kind of am. So yeah, I've a strong bias, so I'm stating it up front.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, so
Look,
let me.
And I'm.
Crofton, do you want something funny to say? You can say your funny thing first.
Well, I was just gonna say, well, I don't want to give away my verdict up front, but it's good. Is that how we're doing this show now?
Oh my god!
Well, I didn't say good, but
man,
I didn't know.
Crofton's really riding you hard today, Mike.
I'm saying, like, but my issue with this topic right off is, like, Mike did a good job of sort of portraying the sort of the strong emotions associated with this topic, but it's one in which, like climate change, that is seems to me a battle between science and proven facts and pseudoscience and gobbledygook, and, like, for the most part, it's like very difficult for me to go through a full episode from beginning to end here on a topic like this and sort of be like, okay, so let's see, what's the anti-vax point of view on this thing. It just really feels like I'm fairly informed on the subject matter. It's a slam dunk, so there's not much to debate.
All right, hang on. You got to back up the horse here, because there's 3 people on the show, and
Who's
I have
the third.
One of whom's a wild card.
I have some ideas about what this all might means, but probably I'm mostly miseducated. I don't want to say uneducated, but maleducated, or whatever the wrong type of education in the wrong direction.
Whichever word is least likely to exist that sounds like badly educated.
It's true. I'm diseducated. Or miseducated. There you go. All right, so
diseducation.
So
part of
let me get the basic. Let me get the basics and have you guys confirm. But please don't go off on a big tangent.
Biases.
Please don't go off on a huge tirade tangent. We're not giving opinions yet. I want to understand. This is education time for Bo. All right, vaccine. It is in most, if not all, a version of the disease that you are injected with. Can happen at any age, although frequently it's children. You can be vaccinated at all ages, and I'm sure the way we're vaccinated depends on what we're vaccinating against. I'm sure there are methodology differences. I don't think you can take any infectious disease and just do it, right? At least until we figure out how to do it, right? Like, it's not just everything.
Know that you have to develop the vaccine.
Yeah, so it doesn't need to be developed, so we can't do it for all things.
It's viral. It's not for bacterial.
Right, so it's not for STDs, right? Can't vaccinate
no,
against...
yes, there's a vaccine for genital warts.
Okay.
Which causes cervical cancer. So it's get your children. So
anything
HPV vaccine,
anything that
people.
can spread around, which really those are the things that you want to stop, because in history we've had plagues and diseases. I can't think of anything like super current. Like, I guess the stuff that you think of as not too lethal actually at one time was lethal, like influenza maybe. And chickenpox.
I wonder why that stuff's less lethal now.
So,
yeah, it's weird. It's all gone. Something.
So,
I don't know.
Let me continue confirming my knowledge.
It's almost like there was a medical development that helped make these diseases less bad.
So
let me. It must be eating kale. That's probably what.
So let me continue my miseducation here. Although so far I'm doing okay. By inoculating yourself with the disease, a small amount, you strengthen your immune system in order to, the idea being, fight it off at later stage when you actually come into contact with it. Correct?
Yeah, your body makes things called antibodies, which are used to fight off viral infect. Well, I guess everything, bacterial too, but you can't vaccinate against bacteria.
Okay,
they
perfect.
operate differently.
So
But yeah,
last
your
thing,
body makes the thing that fights it, and it's priming your body.
right? But it won't know how to fight it if it's never been exposed in any sense to it. That's
Or it'll have to do it when it encounters a drug, when it encounters the illness, but it's usually you're given a weakened version of the illness or a dead version of the illness so that your immune system can identify it and make the antibodies, but you don't necessarily suffer the symptoms
Good.
of the
okay.
A vaccine is rarely just like a lesser version of, like, the vaccines, as Mike mentioned, are made and manufactured, and that's why they're more complicated than just like, oh, I've got a germ, let me break it down and put a little bit in. You know,
Okay,
like
so you
there's
can't,
more to it
you
than that.
shouldn't take vaccination into your own hands by finding
No.
a meningitis patient and licking them all over. Okay, got it.
Though humorous, I heard this story, which I find so funny because it's like 17th century medicine and how they did things differently. I think I even mentioned this on the show one time before, but it's worth repeating because it's kind of funny. I can't remember the guy's name because I'm not good with that type of stuff. But one of the guys who first came up with vaccines, he was looking for a vaccine for smallpox, which is a terrible vaccine, killed like hundreds of millions of people worldwide, including like wiping out the Americas of the indigenous populations. Smallpox, terrible vaccine, terrible disease. And then so he had this idea that, because there's also something called cowpox, which is very similar to smallpox but less deadly. So this guy got a hold of a boy. I just love how it's some kid, like, where do you get a boy? And then he gave the boy a wound or whatever, and then it rubbed. Yes, that's what he did.
He gave the boy a wound. Come here,
Yes.
boy. I'm going to wound you.
Yes, this is what you could not do this today, for example. And then gave the kid cowpox.
In his wound.
Run his course, because most humans don't get cowpox. Like, that's the thing. But it's similar to smallpox. So let the boy get a kind of like illness from this cowpox, which is, and then he took the boy after this was done, and then he exposed him to smallpox, and he was like, oh, he didn't die. And but I love how this guy did this with some boy. He just took some kid and was like, I'm gonna maybe kill this kid because it's the 1700s. And then he was like, oh wow, this works. And that was the origins of vaccine, was like experimenting with some.
And you know what the worst part is? He did all this in the women's washroom.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, it made everyone uncomfortable.
So let me continue my miseducation. Crofton's
Okay, go
helping more in that regard than anyone else. I guess I've got it in a nutshell, because we want to get it. We want to be able to communicate it to everybody here, because I have a feeling we're all going to lean in one direction. So if we are, we're going to at least want to let people who are doubters or who are on the fence maybe swing a certain way. The benefit of this is twofold. One, you're protected against future copies of the disease. Sounds like a benefit. If you just take all other logic out and say, you know, is meningitis spreadable? Is this a good example? What's a horrible disease that we can prevent with vaccine? What's like one of the words? Polio shit. So what if I could do a thing and
wait, isn't it coming back for some reason?
Let's put that aside. Let's put that aside. We're just doing a logical argument and not reporting on factual current events. If I said you'll never get polio, but I have a thing that will prevent you from getting polio for your entire life, do you want it for free or for, whatever, cheap cost? Say yes. It seems logical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's benefit one. Just for yourself, selfishly, I will get to avoid this shit disease. Great. Now, the other thing is we live in large urban centers in the world. And that means, as much as we don't think about it from day to day, as we discovered on our parking tickets episode, things people do make it necessary to put rules in place so that we can all live happy lives. Because given to our own devices, we behave pretty shitty and irresponsibly and selfishly. So the other thing I understand about vaccines is, like, maybe you're fine with getting polio, but your neighbor doesn't want herself and her kids and her husband and whoever else to get polio. So it's kind of cool if you protect yourself against polio and they protect themselves against polio, no one gets polio, and we all get to live long and happy lives. And that seems to be benefit
it's a
too.
term called herd immunity.
Okay. The herd word has negative connotations, but everything...
Because it makes us sound like cows. We're
right.
slightly smarter than them.
But we are kind of cows. We kind of self-farm and prey on ourselves in weird
we're
ways.
Domesticated.
That's for sure. So those seem like the two benefits. Is there anything about vaccines? I've covered the gamut of what I understand about vaccines.
Well, also just like that in theory, and polio was, I think, an interesting one where the aim was to eradicate it worldwide. And if anyone's played the game Pandemic, which is a fun game, once you eradicate a disease, it means it is completely gone. And then in theory, if you do this, you won't need vaccines anymore if the thing does not exist anywhere. And they were very close to eradicating polio. Like it was a huge global thing. And for the, again, polio caused like paralysis, blindness, other things, often in children. Famously, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he suffered from polio and could not walk while he was president of the United States. And these days you don't see people, especially in United States, or like you don't see many people suffering from polio because there was a worldwide effort to try to eradicate it. But as Crofton said, I think it is making a comeback.
So last thing I want to make sure that I understand as well as part of this is that it's always an ongoing effort, because you mentioned the eradication can be a goal, but then it doesn't get eradicated because maybe some people still have it. But diseases also change. Like, right? So, like, you might be vaccinated against a specific strain of something, but if there's a mutation, a new vaccine might be developed.
You're talking about, what's the one they give you every day? The flu.
Yeah.
What's it actually called?
Influenza? Is that the
Influenza.
name?
Right, that's the go-to one where they give you, there's a vaccine every year, and they, like, a couple strains, but it's the, like, known, constantly mutating one. But I think all... like viruses are different.
Bird flu or Zika virus or something.
There's all kinds of influenza. I'm not a virologist.
But like I imagine like we can't just we got the vaccine for this disease. There's the possibility it comes back in a different form that the vaccine doesn't take care of.
Yeah, there is some because it's evolution at play. Things do evolve, but some again more than others. Like influenza is really known to, but I think ones like polio, I think you could use the same polio vaccine that you always use, and it's still effective.
All right, I've run the gamut of what I know. So vaccines, to me, I gotta give you a little. I don't want to say what my verdict is, but I think vaccines are good.
But I appreciated what you just did there, because I feel like Ross and I both are we're gonna slather.
You guys are already like 8 miles ahead of the audience and myself on this topic, because you're just like, yeah, they're clearly good, blah blah blah. And I'm like,
but it's worth. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I want to know. Like, I know some of the pseudo stuff that's out there, but like what Bo did was very helpful, and what Mike, what you did in providing responses. But what is the argument against vaccines? Because from my point of view, it's essentially, and I know the one that you hear kicked around and was kickstarted heavily by a celebrity named Jenny McCarthy. Celebrity might even be too big a word, but like she is famous, where she pointed to vaccines is perhaps leading to autism in children, right? Or increased autism in children. So, like, to be clear, this is one of those arguments that is routinely, pointed to by the anti-vaxxers. And my selfish belief in terms of this community is that they exist because of how good we have things right now. So when things are good, and there aren't a lot of these diseases, well, then you start finding little boogeymen everywhere, and you're like, okay, let's make issues. Like, if we were all fighting the Black Plague right now, we wouldn't be having a conversation with anti-vaxxers. People would be like, give me the cure. So that's like
entirely what it is.
That's my view on it. But what aside from like this sort of autism thing that is, to my understanding, based in no scientific evidence. Like, there's no scientific research that backs this up.
There was a famous study done. I can't remember when. Like, I think it might have been the 90s or the 80s. That that linked vaccine, and this was like a sample size of like 8, and then proved later to be falsified information. Like it all goes back to one study, which has been thoroughly shown to be complete bunk. So that's where the whole autism thing came from. But I want to come back to what Crofton said about the whole, like, we live in good times. People aren't sick, so people don't want to, they don't feel like they need to take it. And I mean, he's put his finger on what exactly the problem is. I agree with him. He's like, this is my opinion, but I'm like, no, that's true. That is what it is. Crofton, you're correct. I really think so, and I think it's really what it's all about. And this comes back to I think what their legit concerns are of the anti-vaxxers, and it's that there's shit in vaccines that you don't necessarily want. They'll always point to autism stuff aside. They'll say there's like silver nitrate in it that's bad for you. There's what's the other one? There's a whole bunch of preservatives. I mean, I think I heard of silver nitrate. There's others. The point is there's preservatives in it, which are things like, you'll hear they'll be like toxic type chemicals. These are in very small. Mercury. Yeah, mercury is a key one that they'll say is in it. People will point out, there's more mercury in a can of tuna than there is in the injection you get. And then the anti-vaxxers will say, well, I don't inject tuna into my veins. And then, like, I mean, I've seen these. But
it goes in your stomach and is digested and into your bloodstream.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But this is how like I've seen these debates happen so much where I know what the responses are on both sides, and I feel like it's legitimate to be like, I don't want to inject anything with mercury into my body. I understand that, and I also don't like the idea of a vaccine. But I have a brain, and I also know that. I know that was quite a slam. Like, these people don't have brains, but I really think that they're so unaware of history, and the fact that, like, something like disease, like, you're living on always a razor's edge where you were ahead of it, and once you fall off that, you go way, way back. And because they just haven't looked at in recent times, like, don't forget, in World War I, that's like 100 years ago. That's not that long. More people died of Spanish flu than did of World War I, and I mean, that's influenza, and it's like we have vaccines now which lower the impact of something like influenza, and smallpox killed hundreds of millions of people. That's insane. Imagine that's more than like all the wars we've had combined. This happens in like the past few hundred years. So I think what it comes down to, and again, Crofton, I think, had his finger on this, it's about risk and how people perceive risk. So it's like, if you live in a society where it's like your neighbor just died of smallpox, and then someone else died of smallpox, and someone's like, hey, I got a syringe full of mercury and other shit in it, but you know what? You're not going to die of smallpox if you take this. You'd probably be like, give me that stuff right now, because I've just seen all these people die of smallpox. But because we've eradicated smallpox, and nearly eradicated things like polio, you don't see people who are paralyzed from that walking around all the time, or people who are blind from polio. You don't see this stuff as much.
You don't see people paralyzed walking around all the time.
Well, the reason I said that, because I've been watching this documentary on FDR. That's why I happen to know he had polio, and he walked around, hobbled around, because he used leg braces so that he could stand, because people didn't want to vote for someone in a wheelchair, but he was paralyzed, but he could kind of walk around on his leg things. All I'm saying is it's about perception of risk, right? So it's kind of like in a land where no one is like ill from these terrible illnesses, which vaccines keep in check. It seems like there's more risk in taking this concoction from some pharmaceutical company. And nobody likes pharmaceutical companies, and I think that's legit too, to have skepticism around that. No one wants to take that stuff because it seems riskier, because you're like, well, I never saw anyone die of smallpox, or I never saw anyone die of typhoid, or these types of things. And you're like, yeah, that's because everyone took the vaccine. So their assessment of risk is all messed up, because they haven't looked back through history enough. They haven't seen how recent some of this death is. We're talking death.
Now another factor in this, because I think, like, we can talk about our own country and what the conversation is like here too, but as far as I can tell, vaccines, we don't pay anything for them, right? Like, this is covered under Canadian medical care.
Well, we pay for them.
We pay for them, but we don't have to open our wallet out, and we don't need, like, like, is that happen? Like, do they have to pay for it in the States? Like, if you're just like, oh, we're gonna inoculate you, by the way, I don't know, $80, $800, like, what
Yeah,
is
you
it?
probably have to
I'm
pay, I assume.
I'm yeah.
So,
I'm sure they would.
is there a mistrust that's developed because it's like, oh yeah, the big companies making me buy a thing that maybe I probably don't need. It's more. It seems more like a tax than an
Yeah,
actual
I mean,
benefit.
it could. I mean, it is paid for. Like in our country, the
Of
government
course.
pays for it.
Yeah, no, of course, but it's
But publicly, it has been free, and a lot of these campaigns of I mean, like the polio one was like a worldwide free vaccine that was funded by I don't know who, but like they're giving it to children all over the world in all developing countries to try to eradicate polio. So it's like people didn't have to pay even then. And there was resistance. I think sometimes people didn't want to take this stuff because they're like, "What is it?" But it's like, stop the polio.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
it's
Now, well, I have another sort of follow-up question too, because we're talking a lot about ourselves. We're putting ourselves in the shoes of, do we want to get it or not? But I feel like the conversation often centers around people's kids. Like, I think as a parent, you're concerned about, I don't want to give my kids this shit from a bunch of strangers who say it's good for my kid. I'm going to protect my kid. I don't trust them. I trust what I know and what I can see 2 feet in front of me. And I'm very selective about my doctors, or had bad experiences with them, and I'm very careful. Like does that conversation change with
it
children?
comes back. It comes back to what Mike was saying about the risk, and if you don't, so like the thing is like if you're given a cure to a virus, like if you were infected with some sort of zombie virus and they have the zombie cure, you're like, give me that cure. I don't want to turn into a zombie. But to get, like, think ahead and be like, I'm not a zombie yet. There are some people I know who are zombies, though, and I don't want to become a zombie. Therefore, I'm going to pre-take this thing, which is what a vaccine is,
Which
as
is,
opposed
it's the
to
zombie
a
virus.
remedy.
It's the Z virus. Like, it's dead zombie
You
virus.
want to, you would want to take the pre-zombie stuff. So I've got my healthy kid. To answer your question, I've got my healthy kid. I'm holding her up. She's perfectly healthy. If she was sick and or dying, I would not even think twice about, there might be some mercury and a little bit of nitrates in this. Doesn't matter. It's going to save her life. But to inject a child when they appear healthy with the forethought that, like, this may help them later on, is tough. But you touched on it earlier, Bo, and this is why I'd be almost curious to know how it's handled in the States, because here in Canada, because of the public system and all this, the idea of vaccination is that there's somewhat of a collective responsibility. So if I send my kid to daycare, or if I send my kid to school with other kids who have not been vaccinated, well, then they've been vaccinated to be able to withstand a certain amount. But if these other kids are getting severely ill, then that could detrimentally affect my kid. Now, I can't force them to vaccinate their children, even though it would have solved the situation to begin with. But this is where it can lead to parents, against parents, because kids are the battleground of where the vaccination anti-vaxxer battle is taking place. Like, you're not going to tell me what to put in my kids. Or you're not going to infect my child because of you not being informed.
And actually,
right?
This is probably what you're getting at. There's, I think, one thing that I heard about this when this debate was really raging. I mean, it still is, but when it was really top of mind, and heard a lot of stuff. So it's like most people vaccinate their kids. A segment of people do not want to vaccinate their kids because they think it's going to cause their kids harm of some kind or another. And then there's a third one, which is, for some reason or another, some children are, say, highly allergic to the vaccine, so they cannot take it, or it might kill them. And that's a very small percentage. But then these parents are like, God, my kid cannot take this vaccine. So they are counting on the herd immunity, the fact that everyone else is vaccinated, to keep that disease in check. So the more you have of the anti-vaxxer types who are like, well, I just don't want to. I think it's healthier for your body to encounter the disease and fight it itself, because that's what a lot of them will say for things like measles and other things like that, which are, again, they don't think they've fully looked into what the long-term repercussions of having those illnesses can mean. But the point being, they want to let some of their kids just be exposed to this stuff and run their course, sort of like we all had chicken pox, though again now there's a vaccine for that too. But then the thing is, there's some kids who can't have that vaccine and might be highly susceptible to, or might have compromised immune systems or a litany of like health issues that they're going to be more at risk, and they can't have the vaccine, and they need the herd immunity to protect their children. And then you have this segment being like, well, I just don't want to. So that they're like, well, now you're putting my already vulnerable child at increased risk because you just don't want to. So they get really angry. And this is part of this like crazy debate where people are really visceral. And you're right, like the children is for sure where this thing hinges on, and people are very protective of their children. And that's understandable, you know?
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. What really resonated there with me was they're actually inoculated by proxy, meaning they don't have to ante up by taking it, just that a lot of people around them do it, so the probability of it spreading to them, because these things have to get around somehow. They don't just magically appear in people's bodies. So it sounds like I could go, if everyone around me was vaccinated, and I lived around them and didn't go to very many foreign, strange places, no means to bring it back to the group myself, then I'd be safe. But if I flew, across the country, I would be primed up to bring it back. So I guess this is also a big thing for international travel that makes me think too. Crofton, you were going to say something.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely need to get certain vaccinations to go to certain places that may be exposed to viruses that you wouldn't be exposed to here. But I think that what I was going to say is that you have to look at, like just talking a little bit, having this conversation, it makes you realize the mindset of the people that are against vaccination, because vaccination is essentially a leap of faith. And it's one that you're taking by demonstrating your faith in science that perhaps that you don't understand personally, but you are making the choice, again, not when you're sick, when you're healthy or when your child is healthy, to take a vaccination for the good of both yourself and everyone around you. And I know that there's a sizable amount of cynicism out there, and not just about science, but about government. And a lot of these vaccinations or vaccination programs are administered with the assistance of government. So, like you have a giant subset of the population who are like, well, the government is trying to inject me with something, and that's immediately going to put them on edge. And then on the other hand, you've got a bunch of people that my body is my temple. I'm not going to put anything chemical into my body. It's just, natural, everything, natural foods. Mike talked about it a little bit when he said, like, fighting these viruses naturally. It sounds so nice when you say it. Oh, it's going to be a natural battle with this disease without any assistance. And he's right. They just have not done the historical research into this sort of thing. So taking vaccines is a leap of faith, but it's a faith that's backed up by proven information and science over generations. And if you just take a little look into those, you will it becomes clear pretty quickly. But Mike and I were talking the other day about diet soda, because I drink diet soda, and he's mentioning some study about the recent study about aspartame or whatever. Aspartame is one of those things they're continuously studying, and like eventually we'll find out causes a zillion forms of cancer, but haven't yet. So I always bring that up to Mike when we're talking. But the idea is like, in the relation to vaccines is like, it's something that's constantly being studied and constantly being improved on, like vaccines are. And you just have to a certain extent, as your responsibility to both your children and the community, show a certain amount of faith and trust into what's there. And like aspartame is clearly chemical, and I'm taking it. So I'm obviously not one of those nature, purity things. But I can totally appreciate that mindset, and I don't like the idea of necessarily injecting some of this stuff in me personally. But I recognize why we do it, and how it has worked, and how it's gotten us to where we are now. Now, the last thing I'd say in terms of negative impact is some people, and this is I think this can sometimes happen. I'm not sure, Mike, maybe you can clear this up. You seem to know a lot about this. But like people saying that a vaccine will make them sick or has made them sick. I took this flu vaccine and now I got the flu. And I know that's.
Yeah, there's any time you take any drug, right? Your doctor will always say these are the risks and side effects, and some of them are like flu-like symptoms. Like if you take a flu vaccine, you may have flu-like symptoms, because your body's, again, it's going through an immune response, right? That's what your body's, when you give the vaccine to your body, it's creating antibodies, so it's going through an immune response, and an immune response is often like when you get high fever and feel like hell, that's your body doing what it's supposed to do. Like your temperature goes up because your body's trying to cook the virus, hoping that your organs will survive. Oftentimes it kills you too. Those things happen because your body's trying to fight the thing. And if you have the vaccine, you may have a mild immune response because your body's still making antibodies in order to fight this thing. But it's because it's weakened, it doesn't have to work as hard. So you might not get a crazy fever, but you might get a slight fever. You might feel a little off for a while because, again, you're just priming your body to fight this thing. And it's like that's how it works. And it's just like the alternative is literally just like. And again, what annoys me about this is that people who don't, and I guess they don't teach enough of this stuff in history, or people don't read about history. I'm by no means a historian, but like I know enough about, like, I've read about the history of North America and how many people died. Saying up to 95 million people, indigenous people, died when Europeans came. And the reason why they died in such heavy numbers is because these diseases had existed in Europe, and it's like, and people could tolerate them through evolution, which means a lot of people died, and the ones who didn't passed their genes on, so they had an inherent kind of immunity, and that's how it works, right? And then when they came to the New World, quotation marks here, the people hadn't been exposed to things like smallpox, so it just wiped out massive numbers of them, but not all of them. And those people who survived were able to survive it, and then they reproduce. That's evolution at work, right? And then their offspring will, in theory, be more able to resist that disease. But that's a terrible way to combat something like like a virus. To be like, oh, okay, well, and it's true, we don't need vaccines. Let's just let like a whole bunch of people die, and the ones who survive and pass on their genes will be able to deal with it. I'm like, yeah, that's great if you don't mind tons of people dying, and also just looking at the fact that like, statistics of like infant mortality. Now that it's like in our day and age, and in the land that we live in, Croft and I both have young children, and I think often when you hear about, even like 200 years ago, it's like people would have like 7 children and like 3 of them would make it to adulthood, and you'd be like, and that's heartbreaking to me.
Even my grandmother had this, only had 3 of 9, even as
that made it.
Yeah, even as long as that's like 60 years ago. Like, I think developments in medicine are like very recent.
Like a lot of them in the 60s.
I don't hear very many people my generation of miscarriages. They definitely happen for sure, but
yeah, they happen, but it's far rare. And again, this is this comfort we live in the fact that you can have a child, and unless it has some like, childhood cancer, some terrible illness. I'm not trying to downplay these. These are, there's lots of still tragedy that happens to children. But mostly, if you have a reasonably healthy child, you expect them to live to be an adult. But back, 100 years ago or something, you might not, because some disease might show up and they're just going to die. They could have been totally healthy, but it's like disease is hard on humanity. So like, I feel like aside from, and the trusting of government and science and being distrustful of is an excellent point that Crawford was making, and a huge part of this. But for me, it's like I just feel like people forget history, you know, and it's like it's so important to just have a basic understanding of this stuff. And like I've not read tons of history books. I've read a few that I found interesting, and you learn about this stuff even in a peripheral manner, and be like, oh wow, we live in good times, and there's reasons for that, and like we shouldn't take them for granted. Like again, like I said at the start, my bias is super clear on this.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what your verdict was.
Well, it's probably pretty obvious to tell. But I mean, again, the other thing is, and again, with some of these, it's really natural to want to hate pharmaceutical companies as well, because they do things that are bad, and they're known as like the most highly profitable industries that exist, where it's like, you know, they spend tons of money on the drug, but once the drug gets out there, their profits are huge, and they can charge what they want. And I mean, that's problematic. Like, you know, and they'll often be like, well, research and development is super expensive. We need to charge us money because we're doing the science, you know, and that's for sure true. But it's a place ripe for conspiracy theories to develop, because
the problem with that is we're looking at the public good. The problem with the pharmacy thing is, like, we're in a community. The public good is something we look after. So the public good almost feels like should be, you know, it shouldn't be this part of the public gouging the other. Well, it's what it boils down to, is just price gouging. If it was 5 cents a pill or something, maybe it's reasonable. But when it gets
like
out of
you know
control,
the story of this guy called, what was he called, Pharma Bro or something?
Yeah,
you're talking about Michael Shkreli?
Yeah, thank God he's going to jail. He looks like such a douche. It's
I
so
know.
like, but he bought some pharmaceutical, or he started a pharmaceutical company, bought the rights to some drugs, and raised the price 5,000%.
Yeah.
And it was like
fight AIDS.
He also
crippling people.
there was a new, I don't know if it got out, but there was a new Wu-Tang Clan album to come out, and he bought it from them and then locked it away in a safe, and it was never released.
Oh yeah, it was that guy.
Yeah. It's Michael Shkreli or something like that is his name. Yeah, he's like a professional douchebag. He's just like, mommy, when I grow up, I'm gonna be a dick. I'm gonna make everyone suffer, but not in a violent way, just by following the law and being like he's not doing anything. Has he done anything unethical? Like, because
yes, he's going to jail, but it's not for
the things
it's for fraud.
Sure, okay, so he should go to jail for that, but he should be going to jail for the 5,000 price. That was a legal move, right? That was okay for him to do.
He would say, and his arguments, and some people would agree, was be like, is undervalued. You know, people need this.
That's
drug.
right. That's business,
and that is the argument of market capitalism, which is like, you charge what the market will bear. And I mean, you know, I have huge issues with that as a philosophy, but it exists, and some people are like, well, if you need it, you'll pay for it, right? You'll find a way if you want to live, and you know, and if it becomes cheaper, then the price will go down or whatever. But at the moment, or if demand...
No, like at a certain point, it's criminal. Like, if there is a plague and you're the person who owns the rights to a drug that cures it, like, the country will intervene and say, for the public good, we're revoking your rights to do this, and your rights to overcharge people. Like, that's what a government is for.
That's an ongoing debate in this country, where they talk about, you know, like famously, New Zealand has some kind of good pharma plan or something, where they've negotiated with pharmaceutical companies, where you'll see like a drug in New Zealand will cost you like $20 for a prescription. It'll cost like $300 here in Canada. And people are like, well, that's effed up. Why is that happening? And it's like, because pharmaceutical companies make deals with different countries and whatever. And I think that is a huge issue, and our government should do more to get in there and try to make things generic. And we talked about,
because I'm not allowed to go door to door and shoot everyone in each house systematically. That's illegal for any of us to do that. I don't know why I just said me. It's not just any person. But you can withhold life-saving drugs, which the denial of which is the equivalent of going door to door and just putting a gun in their face and shooting them. Like, there's a point where it's criminal. Where point behavior like that is against the public good.
The drug company would be like, but where did that drug come from? It costs millions of dollars to make it.
The problem is it undermines property law, like the law of intellectual property and all that. Like, it's
unsolvable
that's
what they say.
Right now.
Is there intellectual property?
Right.
Crofton has something.
And well, just bringing it back to vaccines for a second, I do. What you guys have been sort of talking about here is the nature of people to be dicks. And what I find with the anti-vaxxers in general is that a lot of the rationales stem around them being selfish dicks. And they'll be like, either it's like, I don't trust my government, I don't trust, pharmaceutical companies. I want what's best for my kid at the detriment of all other kids, even though it's not actually what's best for my kid. Or like the example I gave of the symptoms to Mike, it's like, say you get light flu symptoms for getting the flu vaccine. You're like, well, fuck it, herd mentality is going to protect me. I don't need to get the vaccine and deal with stupid
herd immunity.
Yeah, herd mentality and immunity are gonna protect me. I'm not gonna have to remember. This guy's an asshole, Bo.
You're just using herd mentality wrong.
Yeah, herd mentality and immunity will protect me, because I won't have to go through the symptoms and all that sort of stuff, because everybody else will deal with that. Why should I make myself sick when everybody else is doing it for me? Everything related to not getting vaccinated seems like an asshole thing to do. And the only argument I can see hanging my hat on, really, as an anti-vaxxer, is like when Mike was talking, when he was talking about that guy who was testing on the boy in the men's room at the top of the show, like he was explaining how, like, what science was in a different age. And I said, like, you got to show faith, and you got to demonstrate, like, sort of faith in these vaccines. But, like, anti-vaxxers could say, well, like in 30, 40, 50, 60 years, people will look back and be like, you injected what in your children? You guys are crazy, right? With the idea that science is constantly improving, evolving, and that there'll be better vaccines in the future.
Yeah, well, you're saying you could hang your hat on that one potentially as.
Well,
I would just say
the
this.
Logic of it.
I understand the logic too, but I would just say this, because this is what occurs to me when it says, and I'm not ascribing this to you. I'm just saying I don't think you should be sympathetic to that argument. Is that they're not doing anything. Like, it would be one thing to say, man, these vaccination people, they have it all wrong. The stuff we're working on is a microchip that you implant that fights the disease. It's a warrior shaped, like, they're not working on anything. That's the other issue, is like, I think your free science is free to look at things and say, actually, I disagree with this methodology because this is what I'm working on, or here's the theory I'm developing, or blah, 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 blah. Like, they're just saying, it's like when you're the guy who just says, in a team environment, the one who's just saying that everything is bad but not contributing any positive things to say, how do we make this better? That's generally that. I can't think of anything an anti-vaxxer is working on proactively to make me think, oh, maybe the vaccination is the wrong method, and nanobots armed with swords and laser shields to fight microbes is the way to go, and viruses.
Well, I think, to be fair, some of them would think, and I do think it's pseudoscience, but would say that there are other ways to stimulate your immune system, to be like, we don't need to use vaccines, because if you eat American ginseng or something every day, your immune system will be like supercharged and you'll be able to deal with this stuff. And I think this shows sort of
that's not real at all.
Well, no, there's a whole new age pseudoscience industry around health stuff, and it's like a black hole of snake oil salesmen. It's like, it's the bullshit, like, it's massive. And people buy it because it offers alternatives, and alternatives that are appealing, right? Like non-chemical option. And like, yes, that's appealing. I understand it's appealing. But it's sort of like, sometimes when I think of, when I hear descriptions of how these things work, then I'll be like, but you're not thinking, or you haven't learned how to, or you don't know enough about this to, like, I know just enough about how viruses work to know that, like, eating, ginkgo biloba or whatever that, any kind of natural health, what's it going to do? It's going to stop how a virus operates in your body. Like, what is it? Tell me what it's doing. They're like, well, it's stimulating your immune system. Like, how? How is it doing that? There's a process that happens when a virus enters your body before your immune system has a response. And yes, there are things that depress your immune system, and things that, if you're healthy, like, just like sleep a lot more, drink a lot of water, try to eat healthy, get exercise. Those things will make your immune system better. They're not going to stop you from getting the flu. They might make the symptoms less, and your body's going to fight them better. But like, to say you can eat some magic juice from the Amazon rainforest, you're like, oh, I'm never gonna get the thing now.
Bo's like, what did you say? Cigarettes, coffee, stream all night? Was that what you said? In terms of
I didn't hear anything. Say anything bad about those things. All right. I just wondered if at any point Mike needed to take a drink of water. You're full tirade mode. I was like, okay, I get it. I'll eat healthy
mode for sure. This one always ramps me up, and I'm like, I think Crofton was kind of touching on it, where I'm just at the point where I'm just like, you're an anti-vaxxer. I'm just like, I don't even have the time of day for you.
It's verdict time. It's verdict time. It's
right.
verdict time. We're like, I'm like trying to lead you into. You're basically giving a verdict. So here we go. I'm bidding in the animals here. Where are they? I don't know where they are. Damn it, awkward.
Maybe they died from some kind of preventable illness.
No, they're here. They're fine.
Foot and mouth disease.
They weren't doing enough.
Foot and mouth.
They needed to do full body cleanses so that they would be prepared for their illness.
The sound is playing. Shut up.
Order, I said. Order in the court.
Order in this court. God damn it. Order, Mike. Order.
You can't handle the truth.
Okay, go ahead. Mike needs to continue. Go.
Oh.
We're not going to say anything that sways you, so just lay it out there, buddy.
I'm at the point where when I encounter anti-vaxxers, and I've had enough arguments with some people that I'm like, I don't even have the time of day for them. I don't even want to waste the energy on them. It's just like they're coming, in my opinion, from a place of like arrogant ignorance. You know, where it's like their arguments are ones which are just convenient for them not wanting to do it, and again, like there's not usually answers for things like when you look at the historical context. That's the one that bugs me the most, and it's like the epitome of privilege. And people like to shit on elite privilege, but yeah, we're all privileged to live in a land where we don't have to die as children of shitty diseases or get have a scarred face your whole life because you had smallpox. That's a huge privilege. But there's people you can live in privilege and be thankful for it and grateful and understand that it was hard fought to get it, and that's great. And I feel like that's how I look at my privilege. I don't take it for granted. I'm appreciative of it, and I live in a great time. But there are other people who have this privilege and are just like daft and stupid. They don't know what it took to get it. And they're just like, oh, I'm never going to go. I never met a sick person. I don't want to do this stuff. I don't like it. And it's my opinion. And we live in the era, and everyone's got an opinion, and, everyone's entitled to it. But not all opinions are created equal. And some of them are just stupid. And with vaccines, I'm just at the point where I'm just like, it's almost like a trigger for me to just be like, oh, this is a stupid person. And I have there's a whole list of reasons why I would think that. And I know it sounds tremendously insulting for me to say that to people, but that's how basic I think it is, where it's like, you don't understand science, you don't understand history, you don't understand critical thinking. And if you do, you've only used it in the way to get yourself into the quagmire of conspiracy theories. And I'm just like, you're not worth the time. And look at me. I mean, I could talk to a wall for 20 minutes and I won't talk to an anti-vaxxer. So like, the reason we have this many people on the planet, vaccines are a huge part of them. One of the single most important medical advances we have had. They're good.
Oh.
Put that in there. I know. My head was about to explode.
I know you're just like flat. I'm like, breathe, buddy, breathe. And I turned right into good. All right.
And just put it on the end, and if anyone listening is like a staunch anti-vaxxer and hates my guts right now, that's cool too. You don't have to stop listening. Just hate my guts on this episode. Know that we agree and that I think you're dumb. That's okay. You don't have to agree with me, but you're probably dumb. Okay, who's next?
All right, I think I have to. Oh, you have to go next, right, Crofton?
I'll go next.
Yeah, it's your turn.
So I'll just say vaccinations and vaccines are good. And honestly, this was a topic in which my mind was made up as soon as it was pulled out of the machine. And Mike did a really great job of providing sort of background and information on the topic. I agree with all he said. I would note when he says in his verdict that some opinions are more valuable than others. He's right. Unfortunately, one of those opinions that's more valuable than others is the President of the United States and the Secretary of Health in the United States, Betsy DeVos, President Donald Trump. Trump, famous for being an anti-vaxxer. One of his tweets that I shared with the boys on our side chat was, in 2014, I've been proven right about massive vaccinations. The doctors lied. Save our children and their future. So he's all about sort of ramping up, fear. I don't even know what he's right about in this.
Oh God, I didn't read that when you posted it.
But
he's the worst.
But he is a noted conspiracy theorist, like the Obama birther conspiracy.
Also, I would point out a noted stupid person.
Yeah, I noted. Yeah, but I guess I'm saying that, I've said my piece about vaccines, but everybody needs to be sort of vigilant because it is a collective good, and it's a collective good that can be eroded, and diseases that are close to the brink of extinction can come crawling back. So, as much as it's difficult to talk to these people that have their minds entrenched in these conspiracy theories, it's like for the better, trying to bring them over to sanity is worth doing, for not just for them though, but for all of us. So it's tough to have these conversations, but it's worth having. And I know we sound a bit like an echo chamber here, but hopefully there was some good information that came across. And so good.
Yeah. Side note: do you still get to be a conspiracy theorist when you become the president of the United States? Yeah,
because then you can worry about the deep state.
Okay, let's not get it. I'm just like, don't you know things now? Aren't you part of? Anyways, all right. Well, I actually, unlike the lack of artfulness on the part of both Crofton and Mike, also knew what my verdict was right from the beginning, but didn't let on at all. But I wanted to make sure no surprises came out in the middle of the show, which is why I chose the approach I did. Pretty clearly, the public good is a pretty important thing, pretty important value for me, even when I don't always practice it, aka recycling. But generally speaking, I'm smart enough to know that it's a good thing. So in this case, I'm going to agree that vaccinations are good. They keep you healthy. They keep your neighbors healthy. There's limited cases of any actual provable bad things happening on any large scales compared to the diseases itself. And no one's come up with a better solution, except for me, with the disease-fighting nanorobots, which should be a thing if it isn't. That's it.
Hey, that's a rare back-to-back unanimous.
Yeah.
That's rare that happens.
It's almost like the random topic generator, when selecting the topic, somehow had a sense that we
Yeah, it did. And you know what else is rare? Us getting feedback. And we'd love to get some. Especially your visceral hate mail about how wrong we are about vaccines, and you please send us links to your favorite conspiracy theory websites for us to re-educate ourselves. Send all your information to an email, goodbadbull@gmail.com. We would actually love to hear from you, even if you want to call us idiots. We would love that. You can send us a tweet @goodbadbull. You could like us on Facebook and follow our activities there. Find all the links to this at goodbadbull.com, our lovely website. And if you haven't subscribed to the show, please do so. Google Play or iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. We would appreciate that. Another way to support the show is Patreon. We do have a Patreon account. I think it's patreon.com/goodbadbull. And some of our wonderful patrons give us a few dollars here and there, and it really helps out, keeps the website up and running and everything going, and we really do appreciate it. Another way to support the show, if you don't want to give any cash, is to go and give us like a review, even if it's a shitty one, on iTunes or something. That'd be great. Just say like, oh, the show's okay, 5 stars, whatever. It would be nice. Or you don't have to do that either. You can just listen if you want to. And guys, if anyone wants to follow you personally, Bo, where can people follow what you're doing?
Now you can find me at Bo Schwartz, and you can find me streaming video games at twitch.tv/Gorath. That's G0R4TH.
Crofton, where can people follow what you're up to?
They can find me on the twits at Crofton Steers on Twitter.
Is that what's going on?
And I wanted to mention it because I don't think Crofton is. He got someone followed him and messaged him about the show this week, and that was great. So shout out.
Yeah, no, appreciated. Yes,
It was a guy called Shinobi. I saw that tweet, and he talked to Crofton, which I was like, awesome. Good job.
Yeah, no, we as Mike said, we want to hear from people as much as possible. It's great. Sometimes when we're talking, we're like, it's just us and Wicked Kitten out there. I don't know who else is out there.
Loyal listener.
Yeah. And so when we hear from other people, it's great. And I recognize that not every topic is for every person. And in the case of this topic, like when it was drawn and it was clearly a, at least 2 out of the 3 of us, Bozo was a wild card. It was clearly like we knew where we were going. And often the show is interesting because we discover new facets to the way the others think. And I knew that this was sort of like a one-way street. I was concerned, but at the same point, it's one of those topics that is so present in the public domain and dialogue that it's necessary. It's necessary for, for us not to shy away just because we're a bit of an echo chamber on it. And I think Bo did a good job of, getting us talking about it in the right way. So
yeah, kudos to Bo on that. You could follow me on Twitter at ML Hodgins.
Mike's like, finally, shut up.
Well, it came after that because I don't tweet much, and though if you want to send me hate mail there.
By the way, we don't like talking about this too much on the show. I know it breaks the third wall a bit, and Crofton and I are just breaking the third wall, but there's a guy, Peter, in the chat room who just says, next topic, is breathing good for you and why we should fight our air addiction? And I think that's in reference to like vaccines being good.
Recently, I'll tell you a funny story. My sister-in-law watched this documentary about it's called What the Health, and it's about how basically all food is bad for you. And this is to Peter's point about breathing. And then I pointed out to her that breathing is bad for you because oxygen is an extremely corrosive and reactive substance. That's how we live. That's how metabolism works. But it fucks your body up. Whenever you eat this food where people say antioxidants because it's fighting the oxygen in your body. You need oxygen, but it kills you. But it's like you can't live without it, but it's not doing you any good.
He's really fun at parties.
All right,
Me?
then
Yeah.
we should add breathing. I want to discuss this more because breathing is sometimes annoying. Like sometimes you're like, I'm breathing and I'm concentrating on my breathing and I just like to stop thinking about it and you can't, and it's like think of your body's constantly in motion breathing and it's just like fuck off breathing.
I know. Once you're able to download your brain to that.
Oh, the hive! The best part about the hive mind is gonna be not needing to breathe anymore. It's gonna be
he's still on it.
I love breathing.
A question is because Bo just swore there, and I was wondering, is this podcast still rated like explicit and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, probably.
This one.
Okay,
yeah.
Because I thought we should do an episode on cursing too. Like we should put that in the random top.
Have we not fucking done that yet?
There'd be a lot of swears in it. Well, I'm not like Mike Hodgins. I don't just want to suck my own cock.
What is going on?
I'm sorry. That was a Steve Bannon joke. That
came out of nowhere.
That was
Good
a
Lord.
Trump. But I realized that there wasn't enough context there.
Like it's gonna be in the show. I have to leave that in, right?
Yeah.
Brutal.
But it's you guys know where that's coming from, right? I'm not like Steve Bannon. I don't
like
want to suck.
Scaramucci.
Yeah. It's pretty well known. Like
political humor. I don't understand.
Follow.
I don't understand political humor.
You didn't know that line.
He was around for 10 days, Croft, and not everyone caught the mooch.
Oh, I know he was there for 10 days, but I don't know the circumstances really too much.
He said a lot of really terrible.
He did it off the cuff. He's the head of the communications for Trump.
Right. He's replacing Spicer, right?
Yes,
he was.
He did a what he thought, I think.
Did he say that in the conference?
Record interview with the New Yorker newspaper.
Apparently, everyone was cock blocking him.
Everybody was, So he used a lot of vulgarity, including talking about his colleague Steve Bannon being like, "Look, I'm not like Steve Bannon. I'm not here to suck my own cock."
All right, and he's like,
It's
someone's like, how are you finding your
just-
time as director of communications? He's like, it's like a woman's vagina. It's very hot, moist, and dark. And they're like, good God, why are you director? You can't communicate without saying anything.
He was representative of Donald Trump's New York style, I heard.
One thing that was really hilarious, though, to me was like the late night shows obviously had a field day with this guy. But I think it was Colbert. It might have been Colbert or The Daily Show that played this segment of anchors, like CNN reporters and other anchors from the major news networks that had to cover the story without using the words in the story. And it was pretty hilarious. Like blank, his own blank, and all and all this stuff. But yeah, no, it's a vulgar age we live in, guys, and I'm just a vulgar
I'd
girl.
be willing to bet it's the least vulgar. That's why this guy is getting fired. I'm sure 60 years ago there was all kinds of... There's no cameras.
No.
There's not many cameras. I'm sure Ronald Reagan was in there saying, like, what a cocksucking motherfucker. And then people would come in and be like, hello, how are you?
So.
Yeah.
I think it is more vulgar. Like, I've been I think I mentioned it. I happen to have been watching, I've been suffering from insomnia, and I'm watching this super long Ken Burns documentary about the Roosevelts. It's like 8 hours long. And there's all these news clips of FDR talking. I'm like, man, it was a much more civil time. A much worse time in terms of how people lived and their countries like left them to rot a lot of the time. FDR changed a lot of stuff for the better. But just the way
New
they
Deal,
spoke,
baby.
the New Deal, yeah. Social Security, like, man, that's a huge turn. Yeah, just hearing the way they speak, I'm like, man, and then I think of Donald Trump, and I'm like, oh, America.
He's the greatest orator we've ever had as president.
That guy, what is his name? Stephen Miller?
Yeah, Stephen Miller.
That guy, like, I'm not a violent person, but he's the kind I would have to run across a room and punch him in the face. Like, he's got, like, he could not look more like someone you want to just slap. And then he says these things that just make your head want to explode.
I'm sure he vaccinates his children.
Oh, God.
Who's Stephen Miller?
Stephen Miller.
The worst. He's like the biggest
advisor. Okay, I
Trump
just Google searched it. The headline looked funny. Stephen Miller lives in a condo apparently built in accordance with Sharia law. Okay, I guess that isn't funny. I thought maybe he doesn't look... Miller doesn't strike me as a Arabic.
So, Hodgins, you want to hear something funny about Stephen Miller?
Yes.
He's 31.
Well, he's...
Think about how young that is. He is, like, almost in his 20s. When you see that guy, doesn't he look like he's, like, 50?
Well, he's got that kind of receding hairline thing going. I could believe he's that. He just... It's so obnoxious how you could say those things. I was like, he must be some kind of sociopath. He looks like a sociopath to me.
All right,
gentlemen,
we've sufficiently
it was a good
slammed
show.
him. I don't want to suck my own cock any further.
I'm glad you provided some context later.
Why? Why don't you want to suck your
man,
cock
what the
anymore?
hell
Did
did
you
I
come?
do?
Did you come all in your mouth? Is that why you don't want to suck your own cock
you
anymore?
done?
Oh, God, okay, the vulgarity, enough.
Jeez.
I know,
At least wipe the ejaculate from your lips.
Hey,
Oh,
at least I asked before if we were still an explicit
Look,
rated podcast.
I'm trying to make him stop by that's a tactic I'm using. It's exaggeration. Make sure to brush your teeth after the show, Crofton.
Oh boy. Okay, I'm sure you found a spot to end it there, Bo.
Yeah, an ejaculate. That's perfect.
No.
No, I won't go. It won't go that far, Mike. You
know what?
This is after coitus spooning that we're doing right now. It's fine.
He'll probably play the part where I tell Mike that I'm not Mike. I don't want to suck my own cock, and then he won't allow any of the context afterwards, so it'll just cut off there.
Yeah.
And I'll look like a
That's
total
a good
dick.
good point to end it, I think. Or I might just clip it out and put it as the intro. Not like Mike and You're listening to Good, Bad, or Bullshit.
I'm not like Mike Hodgins. Yeah. Let's not...
It's not as funny without the context, because what makes it funny is not that you said suck my cock. It's part of it. It's that it made no sense. It just came... I'm just like, why are you saying that? Like...
And so harsh it sounded.
It's just like, we've never said anything like that in the show in like years. So anyways. All right. Bye, live stream. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thanks.
And like they say in Iceland, don't suck cocks with cold teeth. All right, bye.